Biden's hopeful prisoners program. I'm grateful for President Trump's commitment to criminal justice reform. On February 20th of this year,
How's it going, guys? Dubz Nation. I want to do a little live stream for you guys in the RNC because I want to show the difference between the RNC and the DNC. And the RNC is showing these ads
since its
that are
to promote equality
so much better.
Correct
So isn't this what we need? Isn't this what we want? Shouldn't we all strive for this? This is all
a work in progress, not always
hopeful
perfect.
And good messaging. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of the negativity,
they want equal outcome, not equal
bullshit, and all the other crap.
They criticize without solutions.
I want to see some better stuff. I want to see some better things, not this, this squad and their constant bullshit.
A prevailing darkness in every country that has been tried.
Check it out.
The American dream, inspired by American opportunity, is the engine of entrepreneurship.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike.
The inspiration to the greatest inventions, the highest achievements, and establishing a quality of life second to none, providing jobs, creating futures, fulfilling dreams. In America...
Quick note, remember when Barack Obama was in that town hall, and he had that poor guy saying, my job is gone. I don't know, what to do anymore. He was worked in some sort of manufacturing, and President Obama said, well, those jobs just aren't coming back. You know what you should learn to do? You should learn to code. Some 55-year-old guy who was, like a blue-collar guy his whole life, and he's sitting there telling him to code because his jobs can't come back. Lo and behold, President Trump comes in, brings those jobs back. Obama thought you need a magic wand to bring those jobs back. Trump brought those jobs back.
Opportunity preserves individual freedom. It leads to exceptionalism. It's a bright, shining light, an example for all to see. Tonight, we explore together America, land of opportunity.
Hopeful message.
From Washington, D.C.
I love how all the Trump music is always like the happy ending of like a 90s movie or something like that. Let's turn this up a little bit for everybody.
I'm going to invite you to join your faith with mine.
Let's jump ahead a little bit because the president is about to go live. Bear with me for a second.
I played a let's make a deal with God. And I asked God to climb into the robe of that judge.
So basically what's happening is President Trump is actually pardoning somebody right here. He did it on live television at the RNC. And this is what I think is really unique to Trump, because
I don't know why I'm going to do
media,
this.
the left always likes to paint Republicans as this uncaring, unempathetic, I don't care if you do something wrong, you lock them up, throw away the key, never look at them again, type of people. And they gloss over the fact that it was Trump that got criminal justice reform done. I think everybody does deserve a second chance.
That you made to me.
in life.
And ever
You know what I
since
mean? If
that
they
day,
serve their time, they pay
I
their
got
debt.
up off that floor,
And
and my
this
life
and
went
Trump
in a
has been
180
working on that.
turn in the other direction.
When John got that sentence, I just shook my head. I said, wow, John, you are destined for bigger things than prison.
And another
My
thing
name is
too,
Richard
this guy
Beasley.
Richard
I was
Beasley is
a
the
FBI
FBI
special
agent that
agent for
arrested
about
this
25
guy.
and a half years.
We need
There
more
was
cops
something
like that.
about his demeanor when he
Not
walked
that we
into that
don't,
room.
but
I had this
you're
feeling
not
like
going to find
everything's gonna be
a
okay.
bigger.
Then
You
when
know,
he got
I'm a
out,
big
he gave
supporter
me a
of
call and says, hey,
law
Rich,
enforcement,
let's have
but
lunch. So
I
met him
also
at
believe
a
that law
McDonald's,
enforcement needs to start
and he's got a
moving
Bible with him.
towards
I've seen that before where
this
guys
type
have
of
used the Bible as
law
a prop.
enforcement
It took
officer.
me about 30
This guy
seconds to understand
helped,
that this was not
even
a
though he
problem with
arrested
John.
that
He
guy,
was a
he
changed guy
still helped him
from the man
and
that
worked
I
with him
arrested,
towards
several years
rehabilitating
before.
instead of
When I saw the
know,
way
just
that he treated me
not
fairly,
caring.
I
And
saw
you're not
the
going to do that
man
with
behind
everybody.
the
There's
suit.
some really
I started
nasty people
thinking,
out there
man,
that
if
want to
that
kill
worked for
cops
me
and kill
with this law
people
enforcement
and just be
officer, how
shitbags.
can
But
I multiply that and get more law enforcement officers involved so that we can impact this on a larger scale?
that's what he's talking about.
President Trump, he had made a bunch of promises. Let me just be transparent. When he first started talking about the things he was going to do, I'm sitting there going, wait a minute here. I mean, is he serious? Because everything that he was saying that he wanted to do was the stuff that needs to be done. And before he walked out that meeting that day, I promised I'll make it out there to come speak at one of your graduations. I heard that they were phenomenal. When he stood there in that graduation and he went out of his way,
Ponder's story of transformation in the Rose Garden on the National
go to
Day
the
of
president.
Prayer. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome him back to the White House. John's life is a beautiful testament to the power of redemption. John grew up without his father. As he tells it, my mother was strong, but she wasn't
Guys,
able to keep us out of
like,
the gangs
share, and
off of the
subscribe if
streets. And they were
if you're in here,
streets.
if you're checking
At
this
the
out,
age of
like, share, and
38,
subscribe.
he
I
was
wanted
arrested for
to
bank
throw this out
robbery.
there
While
real
John
quick
was in
because
prison, he began
to give
reading
somebody
the
an
Bible
opportunity
and
to check
listening
out
to
the
Christian
convention too.
radio.
If they miss it tonight,
One
they don't
day
want
he
to
heard
watch it, or if
Reverend
they just
Billy
want to catch
Graham on
some
the radio
pieces of
proclaim,
it tomorrow or
Jesus
something
wants
like
to
that, they
be
can just
Lord
find
of
it
your
like
life.
this too.
On that day, John dedicated his life to Christ. He spent the rest of his time in prison studying the Bible. When he was released, he heard a knock at his door. It was the officer who put him in jail, FBI Special Agent Richard Beasley, who said, I want you to know that I've been praying for you. Now, Richard and John are best friends, and we are grateful that Richard is here with us today. In the last 10 years since John was released, he has created one of the most successful reentry programs, Hope for Prisoners in Las Vegas. I was glad to speak there earlier this year. As John says, Hope for Prisoners is a movement that began as a dream in a tiny prison cell and is now making a difference in the lives of thousands, truly bringing hope that there is an opportunity and a community that is waiting and willing to offer them
Trump,
a second
the racist
chance.
monster, pardon me.
John, we honor your devotion to showing returning citizens that they are not forgotten. We believe that each person is made by God for a purpose. I will continue to give all Americans, including former inmates, the best chance to build a new life and achieve their own American dream, and a great American dream it is. Now I'd like to ask John and Richard to say a few words.
I can't tell you how grateful I am to have the opportunity to speak here today. Not so long ago, my life was running from the police, fearing the police, and avoiding the police. Not because of anything that the police had done to me personally, but due to the animosity I had allowed to grow inside of me, making me believe that they were my enemy. But today, praise God, I am filled with hope, a proud American citizen who has been given a second chance. My transformation began in a prison cell where I found myself a 3-time convicted felon.
Yeah, this couldn't be more relevant either for the stuff that's happening.
I gave my life to Jesus and made
across
him a
the
promise
country
that I would spend the rest of my days
instead of
helping others like me.
rioting,
My first help and
burning things
support
down.
came from the unlikeliest of places, the FBI agent who arrested
there's
me,
a lot.
Richard Beasley.
There's a lot more
He
to
is
it.
now a dear friend
Instead
and has
of
been a source of encouragement to me throughout my entire
assuming that the
journey.
police departments
I am
across the
grateful
country
for
that
the
are
men
not
and women of
related,
the
they're
Las
not
Vegas Metropolitan
connected in
Police
any way,
Department
like
who
they're all
volunteer
racist.
their time to people who are returning to our local
Let's
community after
try to look a little
incarceration.
deeper into the problem.
These are the real
What
life
is actually
heroes
happening?
who put their lives on
Is
the line every
is the
day,
problem as bad as the
armed
media
with
is
the
making it
promise
out to
that
be?
they made to
And
protect
if you
and
actually
to
look
serve,
at the
have made a tremendous impact in
statistics,
the lives of men and women
it's not
reintegrating
that.
back into our society.
I think
My
all the
hope
cops
for
around the
America
country just all
is that
talk to each
all
other
the
and say, "Hey, we're
incarcerated
gonna
people
go,
will be afforded the
we're gonna go
opportunity
target
to take advantage
target
of the
black guys
fact
today."
that we live in a nation of second chances. My hope for America is that law enforcement and people in the communities across our country can come together and realize that as Americans, we have more in common than we have differences. My hope for our great nation is to continue on this path we are on of being the most prosperous country in the world.
I'm so proud of John with his life's turnaround and for all the lives that he's
It's
helped
good we
to
get the
change.
ratings for this up
It
too.
made me
We got to
hard to
get
believe
everybody to
that
start
as a
seeing
retired
this,
FBI
because
agent, one of my best friends is a person I arrested for bank robbery.
saw some of the coverage
When I
from
met John
CNN
15
and
years ago, he was
MSNBC
angry,
on
scared,
night one of the
frustrated,
RNC, and it was like,
and anxious about his future.
what
On the drive
reality
to
were
prison,
you
I
from?
stopped at a convenience store
What world
and bought John a coffee
what
and a
weird
donut.
lens did you watch
After
that
he was
through?
sentenced, John sent me a necktie and a note thanking me for treating him like a gentleman. 5 years later, when he got out of prison, John called me and wanted to meet for lunch. He was a different man. Law enforcement doesn't feel like they have the support from their local leaders. They're being painted with a
That's
broad
right.
brush,
They
unfairly,
don't.
with calls for defunding.
There was a Gallup
But
poll
as
last
President
week
Trump knows,
said
the
that
overwhelming
81%
percentage
of
law
black
enforcement
Americans
officers
want
are
more
good,
police,
smart people.
or at least the
They're
same
doing
amount of
their
police in
jobs
their
very well.
communities.
And they can
But
change
the
world
Democrats listen to
working with people like John.
the loudest and the
Now
dumbest
I'd like to
among us,
invite
the
John's
stupidest
wife,
people,
Jamie, to join us
and the loudest
as I
ones saying that they want to
grant
defund the
John,
police.
I'm not sure you know this,
That has to be the
pardon.
absolute dumbest damn thing I've
So
ever
I don't know
heard
if
in
you
my
know that,
entire
Jamie.
life.
Come on over here.
Defund the police
Second
department?
honor.
And you're going to send
you've been
social
incredible.
workers over there?
Thank you, sir.
Social workers to deal with
All of
domestic
Las
disputes?
Vegas and all of Nevada and
This is
all
coming
of
from people that have
every place
never-
in this country is very proud of you.
Not
The
only do
job
they
you've
not
done
know how to,
bringing people back.
they don't-
And you're
they
right,
don't
I was
know
supposed to
anything
be there
about
for 5
policing.
minutes. I stayed for an hour and a half.
anything what it takes to do the
Because it was
job.
so interesting to me.
They
Congratulations,
obviously
both. Thank you, sir.
come from another
Richard, thank you
damn
very much for
reality.
the job you do. Thank you. It's fantastic. Thank you.
There he goes.
Okay. I think I'll give it to Jamie. What do you think?
Look at this guy. He looks so happy.
Good evening. I'm Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky. Donald Trump and I met many years ago, before he was running for anything. When I first met him, I recall being struck by how down-to-earth he was. He seemed like just a normal guy. Okay, a normal guy with his own plane and helicopter, but who's counting? I was planning a medical mission trip to Guatemala to perform charity eye surgeries, and we needed money to fund the trip. Donald Trump offered to help and immediately came through for us. Not only did he support
Just
my
checking
medical
it out
mission
real
to
quick, make sure it actually is
Guatemala,
working.
but he also contributed to another mission trip to Haiti a year later. We performed hundreds of cataract surgeries in both countries. Nothing is more amazing than removing the bandages from a person's eyes and watching them as they see their loved ones again. Donald Trump helped me make that happen. A few years later, we were opponents, both running for president, and we all know how that turned out. But I'm proud of the job Donald Trump has done as president. I don't always agree with him, but our occasional policy differences are far outweigh
Hold
our
on. I just
significant
want to comment.
agreements.
You see right there, that entire thing he just described? Trump does stuff like that all the time, but he does it on the down low. He helps people all the time like that, but he doesn't do it for publicity. He doesn't do it to signal to other people of how good of a person he is. Meanwhile, that's the Democrats. That's their main goal most of the time. They just want to show other people how amazing they are. That's why they call virtue signaling. They want to signal to other people, look at what I'm doing for everybody else. Look at what we're doing for everybody else. We're so much better Trump has done things like this his whole life, but he does it to help people, not to show people to get them to like him. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody knows Trump loves attention and he loves to be liked, but at the same time, he doesn't flaunt that kind of stuff.
But more important than simple agreement is accomplishment. President Trump gets things done. When some in Congress wanted a so-called revenue-neutral tax plan, Donald Trump and I worked together to make sure that it was a true tax cut. I brought President Trump an idea for better, less expensive health insurance called Association Health Plans. Donald Trump overturned years of red tape and bureaucrats, and he made it happen. While others talked about criminal justice reform, President Trump actually signed the First Step Act, the first real reform in a generation, and one that sought to undo the harm that others, like Joe Biden, have done. For those of us who lament the Biden crime bill that locked up a generation of young black men, remember that Biden bragged about a bill that still wreaks havoc among people of color. I'm supporting President Trump because he believes, as I do, that a strong America cannot fight endless wars. We must not continue to leave our blood and treasure in Middle East quagmires. I flew with him to Dover Air Force Base to honor 2 soldiers whose remains were coming home from Afghanistan. I'll never forget that evening. I can tell you the president not only felt the pain of these families, but that the president is committed to ending this war. President Trump is the first president in a generation.
There's another one. Trump that's actually bringing a lot of people to his side. Like, look at Tim Pool, for example. That's like one of his biggest things. There hasn't been any new wars. There hasn't been any, he's taken, some actions when needed, but he hasn't put boots on the ground, no regime changes. He legitimately supports the military, but also wants to keep them strong, and he wants to keep them out of harm's way. But he's doing it. He's not doing it like a George Bush or a McCain or a Lindsey Graham. He wants to keep them out of harm's way as often as possible, but he knows when he has to use them. And that's actually bringing a lot of people to his side, a lot more than I actually realized in the beginning.
To seek to end war rather than start one. He intends to end the war in Afghanistan. He is bringing our men and women home. Madison once wrote, "No nation can preserve its freedom in the midst of continuous warfare." I'm proud to finally see a president who agrees with that. Compare President Trump with the disastrous record of Joe Biden, who's consistently called for more war. Joe Biden voted for the Iraq War, which President Trump has long called the worst geopolitical mistake of our generation. I fear Biden will choose war again. He supported the war in Serbia, Syria, Libya. Joe Biden will continue to spill our blood and treasure. President Trump will bring our heroes home. If you hate war like I hate war, if you want us to quit sending $50 billion every year to Afghanistan to build their roads and bridges instead of building them here at home, you need to support President Trump for another term. So to our soldiers and their families, join me in supporting President Trump. To those of you who want lower taxes and better, less expensive health care, join me in supporting President Trump. To those of you who want to stand up and fight the socialists poisoning our schools and burning our cities, join me in supporting President Trump. Let's rebuild America together.
One thing, you notice that how everybody loves to trash on Trump supporters like they're all racist monsters? Who do you think the military supports? Who do you think the overwhelming majority of the military supports for president? It's not Joe Biden. It wasn't Hillary Clinton. So what are you saying? What are these people saying? That the majority of our military are racist monsters too? No, they support the president for reasons. And this is why I wanted to put this thing out here like this, because people can actually see what is being said live instead of getting it secondhand from anybody, whether it's Fox or CNN. So you got to take the time and really watch.
What I would call your everyday man, the forgotten man or woman, the people that wake up every morning, go to work, do their job, come home to their kids and families.
Here's
and
the seamless
faithful and
transitions
consistent.
between speeches
The people
and
that have built America.
ads I was talking about.
There are people in our country that have been forgotten, that are hard workers. We do not hold signs. We are not on street corners. We are waking up at the crack of dawn, working and earning our living.
But every single day, men and women from across this country are affecting people in positive ways.
Real people that work hard every day, and they just want to earn a good living and enjoy life.
And he really knows them, understands them. It's clear he has been on the job site, interacting with people from all backgrounds.
I've never had someone care so much about making sure people have job security.
The president's job is...
Real quick, the tractors just reminded me, just brought another point to me. So a lot of the propaganda that's being pushed by the left. Here's a good example. Like I just saw about the farmers. The media would like to say the Trump administration and the Trump EPA is rolling back all these environmental protections and making our destroying our environment. They're polluting our waters again. We're not going to be able to drink. We're going to go back to the age of the Industrial Revolution when people were just dumping toxic chemicals and oil into the oceans and the rivers. And it was another thing that I was just blown away by. How could that be? Like, that can't possibly be. That just sounds too absurd. So one example would be the Clean Water Act. The Clean Water Act, it was President Obama's administration, as we know, made a lot of tighter regulations. And one of the regulations he made was this Clean Water Act. And what it did was it didn't allow farmers to spray pesticides anywhere that there was a body of water on their property, or it actually forced them to purchase a permit. Now, it used to be actual bodies of water, rivers that would flow year-round, streams that would flow year-round, ponds and lakes and stuff like that. The Obama administration changed it and turned it into puddles and rainwater streams and rainwater runoffs and bodies of water that would only come when it just rained really hard, forcing all these farmers to pay, not to stop them from spraying pesticides. It's not going to stop them. It's just going to force them to pay a lot of money to get this permit to do it to the government. So it was just a money grab by the government, and the Trump administration rolled that back to what it was formerly. So it still stopped dumping and it stopped spraying or whatever near major bodies of water, but it also loosened the regulations for the farmers so they didn't get killed completely, because the farmers are always, crying that they need help, and that was one of the reasons why they did legitimately have that stranglehold on them. Trump rolled that back. That's just one example of the many, and you can see if you read deep into it, the environmentalists concede that it's not going to hurt the drinking water or anything like that. It's just drinking water is always purified anyway before it gets to your tap, so it's impossible for that to be harmed, and the regulation was still sufficient under when it was under Bush. So that's just one example of many, how he helped create more jobs and helps the economy
keep us
grow.
safe, and it help make our life better and the opportunity to pursue the American dream. That's what Donald Trump is doing.
As a cattle rancher and a farmer, I do feel that we are not forgotten with this administration. We have hope for preserving our industry.
My hope is that we lift the regulations that have stripped away the working class Americans' ability to do what they innately know how to do best.
I feel like Trump is definitely pushing more for the steel mills, the fishermen, just us making our own products and bringing everything in. He's pushing so hard, and I see it truly coming alive.
I do feel that President Trump has the interests of all those Americans tied together. I really do.
So how is that a controversial message at all? President Trump was right on this. He was saying from day one he wanted things made in America more. And what was the left's response? Well, his ties are made in China. His hats are made. You can't make anything in America anymore, because you can't be profitable. You can't compete. If you did try to make any kind of textiles, especially in America, you could not compete. You would just go out of business anyway. So at the way it's set up right now, everybody has to have their crap made in China. He was talking about changing that system and bringing manufacturing back to the United States. He was right on that. Now look, we got hit with the pandemic, and we had a shortage of masks because they weren't made here. We had a shortage of antibiotics. How can that even happen? That has to change. It's not going to change under Biden. The dude was right, and he deserves credit for that.
Good evening. My name is Jason Joyce, and I'm an 8th-generation lobster fisherman from Swans Island, Maine. I make my living from lobster fishing, oyster farming, and providing eco-tours in the beautiful waters near Acadia National Park, where I have over 200 years of family history. I have to confess, I didn't support Trump in 2016. Skeptical that he shared my conservative views, I expected him to flip-flop on his campaign promises. But he has followed through on his promises, including last week when he brokered a deal to end European Union tariffs of 8% on Maine live lobsters and up to 20% on Maine lobster products, which is great news for Maine's lobstermen and women. I live on an island with 300...
Did anybody hear about that in the media? Did anybody in the media cover that? No. Just like nobody in the left-wing media, at least, covered the Middle East peace deal. He's still getting things done, even during the pandemic. You got to be fair. You got to at least tell people what he's doing so they can make up their own mind.
170 residents, and lobstering is how we provide for our families. Maine's lobstermen are true environmentalists. We practice conservation every day. If we didn't, we'd be putting ourselves out of business. 4 years ago, the Obama-Biden administration used the Antiquities Act to order thousands of square miles of ocean off limits to commercial fishermen. They did it to cater to environmental activists. Although Maine's lobstermen don't fish there, Obama's executive order offended us greatly. It circumvented the Fisheries Council's input. President Trump reversed that decision, reinstating the rules that allow stakeholder input, and he supports a process that seeks and respects fishermen's views. As long as Trump is president,
I love that. I love it. Trump just comes in and literally undoes everything Obama did. He literally just come in and undo whatever Obama did, just to undo it, with the exception of a very few things. I mean, just by doing that, you can make everything better.
fishing families like mine will have a voice. But if Biden wins, he'll be controlled by the environmental extremists who want to circumvent long-standing rules and impose radical changes that hurt our coastal communities. I strongly support President Trump's re-election. When he sees something isn't right, he's fearless in fixing it. He listens to working people. He nominates judges who respect the Constitution and the right to life. He keeps his word, like eliminating the European tariffs and moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I hope you will join me this time in voting for President Trump. Stand up for your country. Thank you.
So he is getting more support than he had in 2016. Just hope it's enough.
Good evening. My name is Chris Peterson. My husband Gary, our family, and I milk 1,000 cows on a dairy farm in Grantsburg, Wisconsin, a small middle American town. Truth be told, until I married my cute farmer from Grantsburg a long time ago, I was a city slicker from Minneapolis, which is about 70 miles south of us. Donald Trump became president in the middle of the Great Depression for dairy farmers in Wisconsin. In 2016, prices were horrible, and longtime generational farms across the nation were going out of business. In 2017, our 120-year-old barn, which served as our milking center, caught fire and burned to the ground. Our cows were spared, but because they needed to be milked 3 times a day, farmers, friends, and complete strangers from all over northern Wisconsin helped haul them to other farms where they stayed until we could rebuild. By the end,
these are the people that the left has contempt for. These are the people that the left hates. They look down on them like they are lesser, and they do exactly what they claim everybody else does. Remember that segment that Don Lemon and that other shit brain that he had on with him, were making fun of the people with a southern drawl, or oh, I don't know where anything's on the map. These jackasses. This dude couldn't even figure out the difference between the rhino and a hippo, and that cognitive test that they were making fun of Trump about. I mean, these people are morons, and Chris Cuomo too. I mean, I watch Tucker just to see him fucking rag on Cuomo all day because it's hilarious.
of 2018, we had a new state-of-the-art robotic milking facility that allows our cows to milk themselves 3 times a day. At about the same time, President Trump's economic boom began helping dairy farmers across the nation. As a businessman, President Trump understands that farming is a complicated, capital-intensive, and risky business. More than any president in my lifetime, he has acknowledged the importance of farmers and agriculture. That support and focus on negotiating new trade deals gave us the confidence to rebuild our barn and dairy operation. Business was booming again, and business boomed right until the COVID-19 shutdown in March. Many people probably don't realize that our country is one of the few in the world that produces nearly all of its own food. Fewer still understand how close our food production and distribution system came to collapsing this past spring. But President Trump understood and again took steps to provide the supports we needed.
It's another point Trump doesn't get credit for, is keeping the supply chains going. It's just the truth.
Trump took the necessary action knowing that agriculture is our backbone and strength, critical to our national security. Our entire economy and dairy farming are once again roaring back. One person deserves the credit and our vote: President Donald J. Trump.
What was happening prior to President Trump, you had businesses that were overregulated, not a friendly environment at all to start a company.
My family stopped ranching about 7 years ago. The regulations became so overbearing that the ranch was slowly sold off.
I lost businesses because of this regulation.
The factories in our town closed. The businesses in our towns have shut. It got to the point.
And if you thought it was bad under Obama, just wait and see until Biden, if Biden is elected. What do you think the Green New Deal is going to do? The Green New Deal wants to implement regulations 10 times the Obama era regulations, maybe even more than that, maybe 100 times. It would be so awful that nobody would literally be able to do business at all. It just wouldn't happen. It would literally destroy the country. You have to think about that. I'm all for saving the environment and being a conservationist. That's it has to be done, of course, but not at the expense of people and just making sure we get it done faster. Then, I mean, we're not going to the Earth is not going to explode in 12 years. Okay, and we're not the only ones on the planet either. China and India are the ones that are causing most of the problems. They're not taking any steps at all, and that's what the whole Paris Climate Accord was all about, and why Trump pulled us out, and why that was a good move.
Finally, that middle America needed help. President Trump came in and was able to shed light on an area that had been so long left behind. Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was huge, especially for a community like ours that has a lot of small businesses, manufacturing, deregulation, fair trade, real life policy changes that affected real Americans.
An amazing opportunity to get ahead, to have our businesses, to have our children educated, of school choice.
That is something that's huge for parents right now, especially Black moms whose kids are trapped in failing school districts.
Before COVID hit, Black unemployment rate was at the lowest ever.
I've seen the numbers of employees go up, and they're earning a lot more for their family than what they had previously.
What this administration has done simply.
Another myth the left likes to push is that the tax cuts that Trump and the Republicans did only help the super rich. I mean, why would anybody ignore the reality? Why would you ignore it? You know you got more money in your check. The vast majority of Americans got more money in their checks. People with children, families, got more in their refunds. It helped grow businesses. It helped your 401ks. The market boomed all because of that. It wasn't perfect, but the line. Why lie? Just be honest about it. Be honest about it. You can, if you come up with something better than Democrats, don't lie and say it was something it wasn't.
Simplifying the government, it's really cut the handcuffs off of America again and allowed us to grow and move forward in a way that I have never seen in my lifetime.
When you pull regulation and allow small companies to go out there and be able to play in the game, that is the American dream.
People feel that they can support and have a family, and they can build and make us stronger as Americans.
What could be taken away if he doesn't win again?
Joe Biden said the first thing he's going to do is increase taxes on everyone.
Over-regulating and making it where a small business can grow, that's taking away the American dream.
I think with the upcoming election, people just need to think about what is better for them and their family.
The president's job is to be the CEO of our country, and he's doing his job.
He has improved jobs, he's improved health, he's improved wages, he's cut taxes. I could go on for an hour and a half.
The plan was working. Everybody had a job, making money, spending
Greatest
money.
generation.
Boom, bada bang, boop, we good.
My kids are gonna look up to me and say, you are the best mom for working, raising us. It's just tremendous what I could do, I guess.
This is somebody who loves his country. He's truly fighting for the American people.
Hello, folks. You know me.
That's true, and it gets glossed over a lot as well. He really does love the country. Why else would he do this? What do you think he did it for? What? He's not taking a salary. He's already a billionaire. He'd definitely be making more money if he just stayed in real estate and just kept taking advantage of the politicians that were in there and doing his thing and taking it, and you know, especially with his high-end hotels and stuff like that. I mean, now I can only imagine all the propaganda and all the hate, the Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, they're trying to take down every business that he has. I mean, why else would he do this? Why would he put his family through all this nonsense, through all the shit that these Democrats want to throw at them? I mean, they attack his kids, and his wife, Melania. I mean, she's the best first lady we've ever had. Legitimately, the best. I mean, she's beautiful, she's smart, she speaks 5 languages, the best first lady she ever had. She redid the Rose Garden, and these shitbags from NBC are saying, oh, these white trash are destroying the Rose Garden, get out of our house. No, dude, you go back to your bubble. I mean, get out of here. Why would he put himself through that? Why would he put his family through that? He wants to help everybody. He wants to help the country. He loves the country, obviously. And as far as businesses, people that don't own a business or run a business, they don't realize how small the margin on a small business especially is. You have this much profit margin, okay? So when people are saying, they don't want to perform for their employer to the best of their ability, or I'm just going to drag out the job so I have job security. Dude, you have to make your job profitable. You have to make your owner profitable for them to employ you. The profit margins are this way, especially in COVID too. So then it cracks me up with these Democrats and these people. Some people just think that just businesses have a big vault with cash in it in the back, and they're just there solely to hand them a paycheck, regardless of how profitable they are. No. And the profit margins are so small. I mean, people need to understand that.
Me from TV and radio, I'm Larry Kudlow. Years ago, I worked for Ronald Reagan. More recently, I helped the team craft Donald Trump's economic plan during the campaign. It was a roaring success. Inheriting a stagnant economy on the front end of recession, the program of tax cuts, historic rollback of...
I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, how many liberals I've talked to that cannot admit that the economy, the current economy, the one that we just saw, was due to Donald Trump. They can't admit it. Literally, they cannot admit it. And they would tell me that, no, this was all a success from Obama. What? What was it, some kind of latent effect that just so happened to take effect 1 year after Trump took office? Why didn't it take effect in Obama's 6th year or 7th year? It waited until the first year of Trump's administration, after Trump undid the regulations and all the garbage that Obama did. How is that possible? And then I have to show them the Obama's GDP growth, 1% or less GDP growth every year. Okay, so that when they start pushing this Obama economic recovery, I want to puke. I want to fall over. I can't. You have to stop with this lying and the not admitting reality. Like I always say, these people just don't want to admit reality, and they want to push this false propaganda because they can't admit that they were wrong. I voted for Obama. I admit I was wrong, man. I shouldn't have voted for him. I wish I didn't, but he's a very charismatic, talented speaker, and he pitched a good one. He got a lot of people. But you have to admit when something just didn't work out, and it didn't.
Onerous regulations that crippled small business, unleashing energy to become the world's #1 producer, and free, fair, and reciprocal trade deals to bolster manufacturing, agriculture, technology, and other sectors. The economy was rebuilt in 3 years. Unemployment fell to the lowest rate of 3.5%. Blue collars, African Americans, Hispanics, women, all groups benefited enormously. Everyone was better off. A rising tide lifted all boats. Then came a once-in-100-year pandemic. It was awful. Health and economic impacts were tragic. Hardship and heartbreak were everywhere. But presidential leadership came swiftly and effectively with an extraordinary rescue for health and safety to successfully fight the COVID virus. The great bipartisan rescue also saved the economy. Right now, our economic health is coming back. With emergency spending and tax cuts, Americans are going back to work. There's a housing boom, there's an auto boom, a manufacturing boom, a consumer spending boom. Stocks are in record territory. A V-shaped recovery is pointing to better than 20% growth in the second half of this year. Now, looking ahead, more tax cuts and regulatory rollback will be in store. Payroll tax cuts for higher wages, income tax cuts for the middle class, capital gains tax cuts for investment, productivity, and jobs. Much more regulatory relief for small businesses. In economic terms, folks, this is no time for a $4 trillion tax hike. Coming out of the deep pandemic, who in their right mind would pick the pockets of taxpayers and drain money from their wallets and purses? Look, our economic choice is very clear. Do you want economic health, prosperity, opportunity, and optimism? Or do you want to turn back to the dark?
Sorry, guys. I was actually looking forward to
join thousands for the
this
annual
kid
March for
Sandman.
Life.
I want to
These
see
Catholic young
his
men
what he
traveled
has to
from
say.
Kentucky to stand up for what they believed in. But what happened was something very different.
Crackers with Make America Great hat on. You little dirty crackers, your day coming. Young Klansmen, look at our Make America Great Again hat.
Social media, the news, and even celebrities launched a campaign of persecution that was completely false against a boy in a Make America Great Again hat.
The MAGA hat carries a certain connotation that provokes a conditioned reaction.
I blame that kid. What a little crap.
Everyone that sees that smug look wants to punch that kid.
Nicholas Sandman received death threats, and his school was forced to close. Tonight, Nicholas tells his story.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Sandman, and I'm the teenager who was defamed by the media after an encounter with a group of protesters on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial last year. Before I begin, I'd like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to share some of my story and why it matters so much to this November's election. In 2019, I attended the March for Life in Washington, D.C., where I demonstrated in defense of the unborn. Later that day, I bought a Make America Great Again hat because our president, Donald Trump, has distinguished himself as one of the most pro-life presidents in the history of our country, and I wanted to express my support for him too. Looking back now, how could I have possibly imagined that the simple act of putting on that red hat would unleash hate from the left and make myself the target of network and cable news networks nationwide? Being from Kentucky, the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, my classmates and I visited the Lincoln Memorial. I found myself face to face with Nathan Phillips and other professional protesters looking to turn me into the latest poster child showing why Trump is bad. While the media portrayed me as an aggressor with a relentless smirk on my face, in reality, the video confirms I was standing with my hands behind my back and an awkward smile on my face that hid two thoughts. One, don't do anything that might further agitate the man banging a drum in my face. And two, I was trying to follow a family friend's advice, never to do anything to embarrass your family, your school, or your community. Before I knew what was happening, it was over. One of Mr. Phillips' fellow agitators yelled out, "We got him. It's all right here on video, and we won, Grandpa." What I thought was a strange encounter quickly developed into a major news story, complete with video footage. My life changed forever in that one moment. The full war machine of the mainstream media revved up into attack mode. They did so without researching the full video of the incident, without ever investigating Mr. Phillips' motives, or without ever asking me for my side of the story. And do you know why? Because the truth was not important. Advancing their anti-Christian, anti-conservative, anti-Donald Trump narrative was all that mattered. And if advancing their narrative ruined the reputation and future of a teenager from Covington, Kentucky, well, so be it. That would teach him not to wear a MAGA hat. I learned what was happening to me had a name. It was called being canceled, as in annulled, as in revoked, as in made void. Canceled is what's happening to people around this country who refuse to be silenced by the far left. Many are being fired, humiliated, or even threatened. And often, the media is a willing participant. But I would not be canceled. I fought back hard to expose the media for what they did to me, and I won a personal victory. While much more must be done, I look forward to the day that the media returns to providing balanced, responsible, and accountable news coverage. I know President Trump hopes for that too. And I know you'll agree with me when we say that no one in this country has been a victim of unfair media coverage more than President Donald Trump. In November, I believe this country must unite around a president who calls the media out and refuses to allow them to create a narrative instead of reporting the facts. I believe we must join a president who will challenge the media to return to objective journalism. And together, I believe we must all embrace our First Amendment rights and not hide in fear of the media or from the tech companies or from the outrage mob either. This is worth fighting for. This is worth voting for. And this is what Donald Trump stands for. Thank you all for listening to me tonight. And one more thing. Let's make America great again.
I'm so glad that kid got to shove it up the media's ass and beat him out of hundreds of millions of dollars. People don't like it's not inconsequential what's the media can do. What the media did to that poor kid. This is the kid, man. He's got death threats. Death threats because of what? Because he did nothing. Just so the media and these dirtbags can get clicks, get likes, get further a narrative that this is just a party, just a casualty. Meh, no big deal. They really are scum. So when people go, oh, I don't understand how anybody could support Trump. Really? Really? You can't understand? Just have to look at that.
I'm Pam Bondi. Our party's theme tonight is America, the Land of Opportunity. And listening to the stories of discoveries and deliverance, you can't help but be proud to call this country home. But for Joe Biden, it's been the land of opportunism, not opportunity. As a career prosecutor and former Attorney General of Florida, I fought corruption, and I know what it looks like, whether it's done by people wearing pinstripe suits or orange jumpsuits. At the Democrats' convention, we were told to look at Joe Biden as the model of integrity. But when you look at his 47-year career in politics, the people who benefited are his family members, not the American people. Let's take a closer look. We all know about Joe's son, Hunter Biden. A corrupt Ukrainian oligarch put Hunter on the board of his gas company, even though he had no experience in Ukraine or in the energy sector. None. Yet he was paid millions.
Where is Hunter anyway? Where is
nothing.
that sleaze bag?
He only had one qualification that mattered. He was the son of the man in charge of distributing U.S. aid to Ukraine. And recently reported information revealed that.
By the way, anytime anybody on the left says a man of integrity or a person of integrity, that should immediately start sounding off every damn alarm in your head. It should be raising every red flag in the world. That's what they said about Jim Comey. That's what they said about Robert Mueller. Okay. Joe Biden, a man of integrity. The dude got caught plagiarizing. How many times? Yeah, how many times you get caught like in willful lies? Not like, oh, Trump lied. He said his rally was, his inauguration was the biggest ever, but it was only the second biggest ever. Get out of here, man. This guy got caught lying 1,000 times. Protected his son. Come on. The list is too long. Don't lie.
A few months after Hunter Biden joined that corrupt company's board, the Obama-Biden State Department began doing business with them, even when it remained under investigation for corruption. And it gets worse. That very same company was being investigated by a Ukrainian prosecutor. Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States, threatened to withhold aid to Ukraine unless that same prosecutor was fired. And then he was fired. Hunter only resigned from that board just before his dad announced his campaign for president. Now let's talk about China. Fact: Joe Biden flew to China on Air Force Two with Hunter along for the ride. They said he was just there as a family member, but we know that's untrue. In Beijing, Hunter didn't just go sightseeing. He had meetings with his Chinese bank partners. Hunter even arranged for his dad to meet with one of the partners. 10 days later, those Chinese communist bankers approved millions to go to Hunter's firm. And those bankers work for the Chinese Communist Party, which oppresses their people, cheated American workers for decades, and covered up a deadly virus. To this day,
Mr. President, the first thing we want to hear out of your mouth when you get Joe Biden on the debate stage is, where is Hunter? Please. I just want to see this guy's reaction. I want to see him challenge you to a push-up contest.
Hunter controls a 10% stake in that firm. And Joe Biden's done more than look the other way on China. He said, the Chinese aren't our competition. Come on, man. They're not bad folks.
Yeah, come on, man.
Come on, Joe. Talk to the folks in Middle America who lost countless jobs to China while your son was getting rich with them. But there's more. Fact: there have been numerous press reports that have shown other close Biden family members benefited from Joe's 47-year political career. Joe Biden was point person on Iraq. The president of a construction firm met with Biden's team in the White House, and then who did they hire to build thousands of houses in Iraq? Joe Biden's close family member, who, you guessed it, had no experience in the industry and no experience in Iraq. A company official bragged that it helps to have a family member of the vice president as partner. The family member put it more bluntly by saying there's a line of 747s filled with cash ready to invest. Now let's follow the money down south. Again, as reported in the press.
How much you want to bet the media, the CNN and the MSNBC and the Washington Post fact checkers are sitting there furiously fact checking and trying to spin everything that every time she says fact, there's gonna be a chyron or an article or some sort of post from these jackasses saying every time she said fact, we were able to fact check and it's false. So I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Yet another close family member of Joe's set his sights on Costa Rica and Jamaica, where millions of dollars flowed from the Obama-Biden administration in taxpayer-backed loans to projects linked to, yes, that same family member. These aren't isolated incidents. It is a deliberate pattern of conduct. And that's just what he did as vice president. Imagine what he'd do as president. How many American families would be allowed to get away with this? Why should there be one standard for the elite?
I can think of one other one. Just at least one. Rhymes with Schmelinton.
Elite political class and another set of rules for the rest of us. When millions of Americans voted for Donald Trump, they knew he'd be different, and he is. He's a tough, no-nonsense outsider who can't be bought or intimidated. He won't even take a paycheck from the American people. He donates his paycheck to charities across this country. Democrats have been lecturing America about integrity for 4 years, while their nominee has been writing the textbook on abuse of power for 40 years. If they want to make this election a choice between who's saving America and who's swindling America, bring it on. Joe says he'll build back better. Yeah, build the Bidens back better. Our president is in this to build a safer, better, and stronger America, and he will finish what he started to keep this a real land of opportunity for everyone. If you want to check your voting status, secure your ballot, or register to vote, text VOTE to 88022. Remember, the best is yet to come.
See, even the undercard speeches are good.
Women have played a very, very big role. The level of genius is unbelievable, frankly.
You're what? You've got 70, 80 years on this earth? What are you going to do with it? Are you going to make that difference? Are you going to say, I was there for the big battles in our country to save America? It's what I feel very much called to do ever since I was a very young girl.
In 2016, Donald Trump made his historic run for the office of United States President. Knowing the monumental task he would be undertaking, he rested all of his hopes for winning on one woman. Because of that trust, he became the 45th President of the United States, and Kellyanne Conway became the first woman in U.S. history to manage a winning presidential campaign.
This president has been a champion for women mostly because he speaks to them as if they can handle and tackle all issues.
I don't want a job because of my gender. I want the job because I'm the best person for that position.
Settle
That's
down,
it.
Kim.
And he respects that.
Calm down.
And he appreciates hard work. You can't ask for anything better, especially in a boss.
President Trump continues to place strong women into significant positions throughout his administration and campaign, far more than any other president in U.S. history.
That he has had and does have more women on his top team than any president before, but it actually goes down to his deputy assistants, to his special assistants, to our awesome teams throughout the West Wing.
And when he called me and said, I want you to represent my entire campaign, I became the first Black woman to represent a Republican presidential campaign, winning presidential campaign in United States history. Throughout.
I love how the left always just likes to gloss over things like that too. As usual. You would think that that would be something that they could get on board with. First Black woman. And she's been there the whole time too. She does a good job.
Throughout his career, Trump has always touted family first as a core value. He shows this especially with his choices of press secretaries, choosing Sarah Sanders, the first mother to become a press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, the first single mother to serve as press secretary, and Kayleigh McEnany, who transitioned into the job while also transitioning into the job of mom.
I have 4 children. Kellyanne Conway has 4 children. Ivanka has, I think between all the senior staff women, we might have 75 kids. I'm not sure. We've lost count. But the importance of the work is never lost on any of us. And truly, it is those children that we are fighting for and for their future.
With these capable women.
How can Democrats really pitch Biden as the pro-women candidate when he's a notorious creeper? I don't get it. Why? Why would you ignore that? Just blows me away. And we all know the hypocrisy too. I mean, look, the Me Too movement, and Biden comes out, that allegations come out against Biden, and all of a sudden, what? No, it's bullshit. Should have seen Kamala Harris the other day. They were asking her about the debate and how she could have gone after Biden so furiously, called him a racist. And, those are things that you can't go back on. You're not, attacking somebody's policies and then say, well, we're going to come to a compromise on that. No, you called him a racist. and a bigot, and I mean, how do you come back from that? You have no morals, no values. That's how you didn't mean it. Better yet, you didn't mean it. It was all bullshit for TV. It was all for show. That's all Democrats do. That's what they just are signaling.
Placed in
See if we
positions
can
of
get this over
powerful
with.
influence and authority, President Trump has proven that when the stakes are highest, he is proud to entrust many of our nation's most crucial jobs to women.
The number of dedicated, amazing, brilliant, relentless women.
Skip over his daughter. Let's see
Can't
what we got
harvest
here.
his crops, to the single mom who loses her job and is struggling to get back on her feet. The town, the community, helps them get through it. But what happens when a storm rips through almost the entire state? When it's not one farmer who lost his crop, but hundreds? When it's not one neighbor who is without food, but thousands? That happened just 2 weeks ago. A storm called a derecho with hurricane-force winds of up to 140 miles per hour wiped out millions of acres of crops, left thousands without power. It destroyed homes, wrecked lives, and left devastation in its wake. It was the worst storm in our state's history. And Iowans did what you expect Iowans to do. They helped each other, they took care of each other, and they still are. But someone else had our back, our president. When the winds had finished raging and the cleanup had only begun, he showed up. Now, you might not know that because the national media didn't report it, but the Trump administration was here in full force. The day after the storm, the president called to assure me that we had the full backing of the federal government. And later that week, Vice President Pence came to Iowa to again assure us that the president and his administration were behind us.
A country where your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other. Abraham Lincoln's words from 165 years ago still resonate today because of who we are and because of what we are. A country where a boy born into poverty in a log cabin, raised right here on the frontier of Indiana, could educate himself, become a lawyer, become a president of the United States who would preserve the Union, abolish slavery, and save the nation. As a fellow Hoosier, visiting Lincoln's boyhood home has always been a treasured experience for me and my family. It's a place that made Lincoln. It shaped Lincoln and defined the man that Lincoln would become. America is the land of opportunity. As President Donald Trump declared at Mount Rushmore, in America you can do anything. You can be anything. And together, we can achieve anything. Every day, President Donald Trump is fighting to protect the promise of American liberty. Every day, our president's been fighting to expand the reach of the American dream. And on every single day, without fail, President Donald
Pence really does add that polished politician swagger to the campaign that I think they need, and it's always good when they bring him along.
has been fighting for you. So tonight, I'd like to introduce you to a few remarkable Americans who represent that solemn pledge, who embody our president's unbreakable devotion to ensuring that America is a land of unlimited opportunity for all. Jack is an 8-year-old from Wisconsin who was struggling academically and socially in school. But Jack's mom, Sarah, who works 3 jobs to support her son, applied for Wisconsin's school choice voucher program.
We're glad that we were able to get the school choice voucher to go to that school. With Jack, he would have slipped through the cracks in public schools, and having the option to go to a school that fits him has been a real game changer for us. And I know that because of that opportunity that he's going to succeed and he's going to achieve that goal of being an apparatus engineer, if that's what he chooses to stick with.
Laura McClin is a mother of another inspiring boy, Jordan. Jordan has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, a fatal muscle weakening disorder. Jordan was at my side in Indiana when, as governor, I signed a law allowing terminally ill patients to access experimental drugs not yet approved by the FDA. In 2018, President Trump signed the landmark federal Right to Try bill into law. Thanks to the president's leadership, critically ill patients have the right to access life-saving experimental treatments.
We started fighting for Right to Try, which basically says if you have a terminal illness and there's a drug that exists and you don't qualify for the clinical trial, there's no other way to receive it. This is
Couple things. First of all, why is school choice such a controversial thing to Democrats? You would think that's when you say school choice, it's like throwing a vat of acid on them or something like that. Why wouldn't you want to give kids as many opportunities as possible to go to a different school? Not why? Because the teachers unions, a lot of times, they don't want to let it go. They don't want. They want those kids in those schools. Unfortunately, in a lot of schools, and especially in the universities, it's turned into just pure indoctrination. So that's why they don't want to let anybody slip through their fingers. And don't get me wrong, that's not teachers. I know a lot of great teachers, but I'm talking about higher up in the chain there.
is a unique pathway that allows you to have access. You made us a promise back in Indiana that you would do whatever it took to help Jordan, and we're so grateful that you joined us on this journey and stuck it out until it became law so that other people could access treatments.
So, Jordan, if President Trump was standing right there, what would you say to him today about Right to Try?
Thank you for being a hero to everybody in the country.
Judge Cheryl Allen made history in 2007 when she became the first.
That's a big deal. Remember that little boy in the UK that was dying of a terminal illness, and the government actually stepped in and wouldn't let the parents try an experimental treatment. They wouldn't let them literally try anything that they could to potentially save the baby's life. And they stepped in and went to the court, stepped in and overrode the parents' decision and their choice to maybe fly over to the United States or try something else, try a treatment that could have worked here, just as watch this effort to save their baby. And the government wouldn't let them. They literally wouldn't let them, and they wanted to just ease the suffering of the baby and basically let it die or put the baby out of its misery. This is a disgusting, terrible thing. That's what socialized medicine is going to bring to you. And that's why that thing in 2018 was a big deal, and you don't hear about it.
African-American woman to be elected to serve on the Pennsylvania Superior Court. It's because of leaders like Judge Allen that our nation has overcome our greatest challenges. In this time of racial division in the country, do you see faith and values and the strong stand that President Trump has taken for equality of opportunity as a pathway toward bringing the country together?
As a senior citizen, I'll leave it at that. I know what racism feels like, but I also know that but for my being in this country, I would have never been able to achieve the things that I have been able to achieve. There are injustices, but the way to deal with those injustices is for people to sit down across the table and talk and come up with solutions. I do believe that President Trump is committed to that. In 2016, I have to confess that I really did not know candidate Trump at the time, but I have to say that he really won me over.
Gino's a truck driver from Ohio who heard politicians for years make empty
that doesn't need any extra commentary from that woman. That was
only to
perfect.
see those promises broken again and again. But in 2019, when General Motors closed its plant in Lordstown, Ohio, President Donald Trump refused to stand by and watch it happen. And as Gino observed, this president reached out to General Motors to find a way to bring jobs back to Lordstown. And plans were soon set into motion to create Lordstown Motors.
President Trump says, this is how we fix it. And I thought, well, that's a simple solution. There's no other president that could do that. There's no one that has even tried to do it. President Trump's a doer. He appreciates every one of us, and I know he does. I've seen it. When he said "Make America Great Again," that was his task. That wasn't his slogan. That was his task. And every hat you see that says MAGA on it, that's what your president's doing for you. Thank you, Mr. President, for keeping the promises that you made.
And then there's Pastor Aaron Johnson. Today, he's the executive director of the Tulsa Dream Center, a nonprofit that provides education and medical services and food to those in need. AJ, you've got a great personal story. When you see the way this president, this administration have been leaning in to create opportunities, investments in communities around the country to create jobs, expanding educational choice, what does that mean to the families that you serve every day?
It means so much to our families. I did grow up in a single-parent home, and so we serve over 600 boys and girls right now on a daily basis, even in COVID. And so for us to give these moms to have an opportunity to take more money on their check, on their paycheck home back to them, to have their children be able to go to a school that they may not have the opportunity to otherwise, it means so much to us. There's been so much greater opportunity for individuals to come together in any walk of life. People have really been able to see such a positive change and been filled with hope, especially throughout this time.
Okay, so you guys get the picture. All these, there's a lot of feel-good stories here. The transitions, like I said, are very good. This is well produced. This is another good night.
Very pregnant. In my shock, I asked her if she knew that she was harming her baby by doing drugs. She crumbled and burst into tears. Two worlds collided as I knelt down beside her. A police officer and a homeless drug addict, brought together by forces outside of our control. As we talked, our humanity, distinct from our stations in life, was made abundantly clear. Her name was Crystal, and in the midst of her suffering, she confided that she loved her unborn baby. She wanted the best for her child. In that moment, I saw her the way that all of you who know and love an addict see them, as fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, children, cousins, and friends, as human beings, full of value and dignity, but robbed of their potential by this disease. When Crystal said that she was looking for a family to adopt her baby, God showed me exactly what I had to do. Without hesitation, I told her that my family would welcome her baby through adoption. Today, our beautiful daughter Hope is a thriving 2-year-old. Crystal is fast approaching 3 years of recovery. She is a dear friend and a constant inspiration to me and others. I hold a special place in my heart for those facing opioid addiction, and that's why I'm enormously grateful to the president for his leadership in fighting this deadly enemy. Through his efforts, we're turning the tide on the crisis of addiction. President Trump declared the opioid crisis to be a public health emergency and then secured $6 billion in new federal funding to help Americans fight opioid abuse. He invested an additional $100 million to stop the opioid crisis in rural America. And in a move that strikes at the root of the problem, he implemented a safer prescribing plan aimed at reducing opioid prescriptions by over a third within 3 years. This is an effort that stops addiction before it ever gains a hold in someone's life. And it's having an impact. Drug overdose deaths decreased in 2018 for the first time in 30 years. Many of the states hardest hit by the opioid crisis are seeing the largest drop in deaths. We're seeing that doctors are writing fewer prescriptions for opioid pain drugs. These are significant improvements that have a meaningful.
Notice before COVID, not a single Democrat ever took the steps necessary to make the opioid crisis as serious as it, and take it as serious as it should have been taken. And Trump did. And now that we're stuck in these lockdowns, I can only imagine the steps backwards that many are going to take that are struggling with addiction. I can only imagine. So here we are in states like New York, New Jersey, California, all flat. California, no, but New York and New Jersey are flat in the curve. There are no cases, literally none. They're still locked down. People can't go to work. You can't go. You can go out. You can only dine outside. Why? Why are they still locked down? Just a few weeks ago, there was a survey done that said a quarter of all adults 18 to 24 were contemplating suicide seriously in the last 30 days because of these stupid damn lockdowns. You got to end them.
Impact. I think we are fortunate, America, to have a president who cares deeply for the downtrodden and who works tirelessly to find solutions. A president who doesn't just talk about problems, but stops and helps. President Trump is the leader we've needed the last 4 years, and he is the leader we need.
Skip ahead, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Acting Secretary Wolf, I present to you 5 candidates for naturalization representing 5 countries.
On behalf of everyone here today, I'd like to express my gratitude to you, Mr. President, for hosting this naturalization ceremony here at the White House. To our candidates, it is my honor to administer the oath of allegiance and welcome you as our fellow citizens. Candidates for naturalization, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I hereby declare an oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. That I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will bear arms on behalf of the United States. When required by law.
All right, so they're touching on every aspect here.
Soon you'll have hundreds of employees, I think, right? Could happen. It will. Rima Gideon is from Lebanon and is the proud mother of 3 children. Rima speaks English, Arabic, and French and earned a degree in psychology. In other words, she can figure me out. She now works as a daycare teacher in Virginia. Rima says, I feel blessed to be a loyal citizen of the greatest country in the world, a country that has given me the opportunity of a lifetime to realize my potential and my dreams. Rima, congratulations. Really great. Thank you. That's very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sudha Sundari Narayan is a phenomenal success, born in India, came to the United States 13 years ago. Sudha is a talented software developer, and she and her husband are raising 2 beautiful, wonderful children, the apples of your life, right? Well, thank you very much, and congratulations. Fantastic job. Thank you. Nehmet Abdelzim Awalo Said is from Sudan, and that's a beautiful name, and has been a lawful permanent resident since 2012. She is the married mother of 3 beautiful children, earned a master's degree and PhD in animal nutrition from the University of Wyoming, great place, great state, and she is a trained veterinarian. She's also worked as a substitute teacher for the Alexandria Public School since 2004. That's fantastic. Well, Divat, thank you very much, and congratulations. It's my honor to be with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Salah Abdul Samad has been looking forward to this day since he arrived in the United States from Ghana in 2015. Salih speaks 5 languages and works the medical field. Salih says that the American citizenship means everything to me in my life. It cannot be measured or quantified. I have the chance to work hard and succeed in life, to know that I am in the safe country like America. That really is something, because I know they have my back. Salih, thank you very much. Congratulations. Fantastic job. Congratulations to everybody. With the rights and freedoms each of you now enjoys as citizens, there is no dream beyond your wildest reach, because Americans can do anything. Today, you have also accepted the profound duties and responsibilities that come with American citizenship. By swearing the oath of allegiance, each of you has entered a sacred and unbreakable covenant with our nation. You have pledged your undying loyalty to the American people, the American Constitution, and the American way of life. The history and heritage of the United States are now yours to preserve and pass down to the next generation. Our culture, our traditions, and our values are now yours to uphold and live by. The rights so dear to every American, granted by us and granted by God, and enshrined in our glorious Bill of Rights, are now yours to support, protect, and defend. As citizens, you're now stewards of this magnificent nation, a family comprised of every race, color, religion, and creed. United by the bonds of love, we are one people, sharing one home, saluting one great American flag. Congratulations again to all of you. May God bless you, and may God bless our great country, America.
I like how Trump just periodically pops his head out every so often in between each one. It's good production.
Good evening, America. When I stood on this convention stage 4 years ago, no one fully understood the historic change that was about to take place. We could all feel it. Something was happening. A movement was forming just below the surface. The forgotten man and woman, voiceless in Washington, D.C., were preparing to rise up. Our movement followed the pattern of so many that came before us. First, we were ignored. Then we were laughed at. Then they fought us. And then, together, we won. From that moment forward, America came first. America started winning again. America became respected again. But with every movement, there's a counter-movement. In the view of the radical Democrats, America is the source of the world's problems. As a result, they believe the only path forward is to erase history and forget the past. They want to destroy the monuments of our forefathers. They want to disrespect our flag, burn the stars and stripes that represent patriotism and the American dream. They want to disrespect our national anthem by taking a knee while our armed forces lay down their lives every day to protect our freedom. They do not want the Pledge of Allegiance in our schools. Many of them don't want one nation under God. The Democrats want to defund and disrespect our law enforcement. The Democrats want an America where your thoughts and opinions are censored when they do not align with their own. President Reagan said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, and it must be protected." This is the fight that we are in right now, and it is a fight that only my father can win. My father ran not because he needed the job, but because he knew hard-working people across this great country were being left behind. The media mocked these patriots in the flyover states in which they lived. They ignored.
That's exactly my point before. He didn't need to do this, and the media does mock people just like that. They have serious contempt for them.
They ignored the Trump flags. They ignored the millions of MAGA banners and barns painted in red, white, and blue. The silent majority had no one fighting for them in either party. Their so-called leaders were bowing to China, bribing Iran, and spending more time worrying about how they'd be received by the elites in Paris than how Americans would provide for their families in Pittsburgh. Our family lost friends, but it only pushed us to fight harder. My father pledged to every American in every city, state, and town that he was going to make America great again. And so began the great American comeback. Almost immediately, taxes were slashed, regulations were cut, and the economy soared to new heights, heights never seen before. Wages went through the roof. Unemployment reached historic lows, especially for Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, and women. Trade deals were ripped up and renegotiated. Lights were turned back on in abandoned factories across our country. Trillions of dollars were repatriated back to the United States, which had been sitting in foreign lands for far too long. Once again, America became the envy of the world. And with that renewed strength came leverage. The president demanded that our allies pay their fair share for the defense of the Western world. My father rebuilt the mighty American military, adding new jets, aircraft carriers. He increased wages for our incredible men and women in uniform. He expanded our military defense budget to $721 billion per year. America was no longer weak in the eye of the enemy. The moment President Trump ordered special forces to kill some of the deadliest terrorists on the planet, the day the mighty Moab was dropped on insurgent camps, is the day America took a stance to never be defeated by the enemy. Al-Baghdadi, Soleimani, dead. Over and over, issue after issue, the economy.
Remember when the Democrats were crying because Trump had Soleimani and al-Baghdadi killed? Brutal, vicious terrorists, and they were crying. And one of the media outlets was like, nice man killed by it was so fucking ridiculous.
The wall, the military, trade deals, tax cuts, Supreme Court justices, VA hospitals, prescription drugs, school choice, right to try, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, peace in the Middle East. Never-ending wars were finally ended. Promises made and promises for the first time were kept. Most politicians spend their entire careers in Washington, D.C. and get absolutely nothing accomplished. For example, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a politician who has been in government for 47 years. He's a career politician who's never signed the front of a check and does not know the slightest thing about the American worker or the American business, the engine which fuels the greatest economy the world has ever known. The same politician who has been a total pushover for communist China, and someone who would be a giant relief for terrorists who now have spent years running, hiding, which is unlike anything else in the world. It built the New York City skyline. It built the Hoover Dam. And soon, under my father's leadership, it will send Americans to Mars. The American spirit can be felt in the majesty of the Grand Canyon, the shadows of Mount Rushmore, and the stillness of the air at Gettysburg. It can be seen in the wide-eyed wonder of every American child as they take their first breath in the greatest country the world has ever known. It defeated fascism, it defeated communism, and in 68 days, it will defeat the empty, oppressive, and radical views of the extreme left. Ronald Reagan's quote ends with this simple warning. One day we could spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men and women were free. Under President Trump, freedom will never be a thing of the past. That's what a vote for Donald Trump represents. It's a vote for the American spirit, the American dream, and for the American flag. To the law enforcement officer who's being attacked, betrayed, and whose job they are trying to make extinct, my father will fight for you. To all houses of worship and to all people of faith stripped of our religious freedoms and religious liberties, my father will fight for you. To the voiceless, shamed, censored, and canceled, my father will fight for you. To our farmers who work dawn to dusk to keep our plates full, my father will fight for you. To every single mother and father, to our veterans, our coal miners, and to the American worker, my father will fight for you. And to every proud American who bleeds red, white, and blue, my father will continue to fight for you. In closing, I'd like to speak directly to my father. My father is fighting for. I'm proud to watch you give them hell Never stop. Continue to be unapologetic. Keep fighting for what is right. You are making America strong again. You are making America safe again. You are making America proud again. And yes, together with a forgotten man and woman who are finally forgotten no more, you are making America great again. Dad, let's make Uncle Robert very proud this week. Let's go get another 4 years. I love you very much. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
We're going to build a future of safety and opportunity for Americans.
Okay, we're going to end it there with Eric Trump's barn burner. I just wanted to do this, especially the early part, just to try something new and also just have another source for people to go directly to the live content instead of getting it from somewhere else that's going to manipulate it. So just try something else. Like, share, subscribe, and more to come soon.